Very good morning to you this Monday morning. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. We're here with you all the way until 9:30 this morning after a very busy weekend and loads of good stuff to look forward to. Going to talk about the football, going to talk about the hurling, going to talk about everything else as well. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you getting on?
Pretty good, yeah. Drama in the Premier League, drama in the hurling, drama in the rugby.
Yeah, the rugby kind of comes at the bottom almost of the list when you get to a Monday. It's all crammed into a Friday night, Saturday. Thomond Park was amazing on Saturday, but Bramall Lane yesterday was the moment of the weekend, really.
Which of the moments during the game? The comeback, the equaliser, the post-match press conference?
David McGoldrick being David McGoldrick. David McGoldrick is going to ping in a 30-yarder very, very shortly. That is the one thing that is going to get lost in all of this, that when they were 2-0 up, he had a pop from the edge of the box. David De Gea saved it pretty easily, but we're starting to see this more and more. We had a conversation this time last week about McGoldrick and his flair. Probably not the case, but McGoldrick and his ability to ping one in from 30 yards, it is going to happen soon. I know that it is kind of a footnote on everything else that happened at the weekend, but I just wanted to get that off my chest.
McGoldrick as a partner for any of our good strikers over the last decade would have been great. Unless he wasn't this good, unless this is just a very unusual late career flowering. But it strikes me that he was always this good and we just didn't use him.
It's probably a bit of both, to be honest. Like, there's a reason why we haven't seen David McGoldrick as an established Premier League centre-forward until now as well. I don't think it's Ireland that have just kind of missed these talents. I don't think Ireland have missed these talents. I think that he's just not come through to the top tier because of the fact that it is a late season or late part of his career peak. Like, obviously, his partner in Mousset yesterday was a brilliant player when he went off. That kind of turned the game in Manchester United's favour. It's kind of even hard to put your finger on why the game actually did change for Manchester United. It's like one of those situations where it's almost kind of a roll of the dice whether or not confidence will perk up, whether or not they will be able to put together a moment of magic. And I think Brian Kerr kind of summed it up pretty well on the radio yesterday, that Brandon Williams was terrible all day and then came up with an outrageous goal to bring Manchester United back into the game. So they're the sort of strange scenarios that we seem to be getting with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He seems to be a bystander almost in what's going on in front of him. He doesn't seem to have much control over what's happening. I don't think you could blame Solskjaer too much for them going 2-0 down last night, and then you can also not give him too much credit for the comeback at the same time. So he's almost just kind of stuck between mediocrity and being a very poor manager, I think, at this point. And he has to go. Like, I really do think that it is time for Manchester United to just get rid of Solskjaer.
I was actually thinking that the comeback suggested here's a team who hasn't quit on him. Here's like still some semblance of things that he's capable of doing and bringing from the touchline. Because there are going to be games where you go behind. Sheffield United aren't mugs, right?
They're not mugs, but you play the way you play like that for 70 minutes. It was horrific. It was absolutely horrific. And I'm sure there was a lot of people. I didn't really go on. I put up some tweet which was kind of disparaging of Manchester United. Didn't really go on afterwards. I'm sure there was like people who would be wise after the fact and saying, "Oh, Solskjaer proved you all wrong with their comeback." Like, I don't think you can give Solskjaer much credit for that comeback. I think you can give the younger players a bit of credit for the way they managed to dig in. Of course, Solskjaer bringing on Greenwood is obviously a huge positive, and that's something that he'll probably take a little bit of credit for personally, but I just think any manager could have made the appropriate switches personnel-wise. I just think that you almost kind of feel you need to try and find energy within you to slate Solskjaer too much, and then you need to find a hell of a lot of energy to give him any praise. He's just such a middling manager at this point, and I think that that's just not good enough for Manchester United.
Well, it's clearly not good enough for Man United if it's true, but there is a possibility that actually this is somebody who's learning on the job and is showing signs over the course of the first, 15 weeks of the season, that he is getting to grips with the task, that there will be setbacks for a young team. He's beginning to give youth its opportunity. Bear in mind, this is a team that is missing several of its first-choice Maria players. Some whom I hope probably, for all our sakes, don't get back in the team because we like to watch some good football. But if you add Pogba back into the team playing well, if he comes back in and can help that team, if you don't have to pick that centre-back at the start of the game ever again, if Phil Jones maybe never plays for Manchester United again.
Especially in the back three on occasion. It's I thought Gary Neville was going to turn into the Incredible Hulk, actually run onto the pitch and just push Marcus Rashford or push Daniel James, just create some sort of kinetic energy within their body, because he was screaming down his microphone from the gantry all afternoon saying, where's the movement in the forwards? Where's the movement in the forwards? And those two things you point to have clearly been the issue that Manchester United have struggled with most over the past few months, ever since the end of the Jose Mourinho tenure. But yesterday, the thing that really got the analysis wound up was the lack of movement in the forward line. And I think at the start of the season, a lot of people would have been looking at a front three of Martial, Rashford and Daniel James as something really exciting, something that you could then start building backwards from, because at least you have a great attack, at least you have somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net, 3 people who can put the ball in the back of the net, and 2 speedy wingers outside of Marcus Rashford. And then yesterday they really kind of let them down for 70 minutes. Now Rashford did kind of come to life as the game wore on in the latter stages of the match, but 2 teenagers also scored as well. So it's kind of hard to really see what the kind of lingering positivity is from yesterday. It was a get out of jail moment for Solskjaer a little bit, I think, and Sheffield United would be gutted without that win.
Yeah, I'm sure, but having said all that, they were on the verge of winning the game. Yeah,
and all great teams managed to find that sort of way of doing it, but also great teams don't play as badly as Manchester United did for 70 minutes.
Well,
there's a line there. There's like
there is a line, and they're not a great team, and I don't think anybody thinks they're a great team just yet.
No, like you can. It's not fair to compare them to Liverpool, because Liverpool are streets ahead of them at the moment, and have a far better manager, and have a far kind of more experienced player group that have been around a lot longer. But the line that is thrown out: great teams can play badly and win. When Liverpool are playing badly at the moment, they look a far better side of how Manchester United look. Again, I accept that it's not a fair comparison, but I don't think that line can be trotted out about Manchester United at this point, that they can get a result playing badly, because the playing badly thing is the thing that is the main issue.
The managerial sack race is going to heat up over the next few days.
It's going to be great.
We'll have a piece up on offtheball.com a little bit later on. We're going to talk with Kenny Cunningham after 8 o'clock. I'm going to tell you what's coming up now. Yeah, Kenny's coming your way just after 8 o'clock this morning. We're going to talk about Boris Lee's fairly titanic Munster Club hurling final victory against Ole Gunnar yesterday as well. That's coming up around 20 past 8. After that, sports news with John Duggan. Alan Quinlan's going to talk to us about a busy weekend of rugby, and then pits and peaks, your highlights from the weekend. You can share your pits and peaks with us. Use the hashtag OTB AM or leave a comment on the YouTube channel. Papers next.
Our job is to report the news, not to manufacture it.
Everton owner Farhad Moshiri wants the Toffees to sign Atletico Madrid and Spain striker Diego Costa, according to the Mail on Sunday.
And to hell with you if you think I made it up.
The Stars supplement this morning is sack race, and they've got a picture of David Moyes. David Moyes coming back to Everton. I mean, come on. Surely not. Surely the David Moyes experiment is over.
You would have thought so, but you would have also thought that if there was one club that could potentially give David Moyes that injection to...
What to do what?
Right off into the sunset.
No.
With a little bit of
glory
left in his managerial career. Everton is that club.
No. Like, poor Everton. You just feel like they just need a little bit of help. It's like an arm around the shoulder and come on, don't worry about it. It's okay. You've made about 14 mistakes in a row, but the 15th time, you're going to regret. You don't need to go back to him. You don't need to go back to him. He left you. You don't need to go back to him. He treated you badly. He left you. Don't go back.
I would be saying, do go back. He's a better alternative than Marco Silva.
But that's not the... It's like... it's not...
Who is the other...
Is he a better alternative than all of the other managers in world football? Because it's the field.
You're not going to get older man. I've just got a sneaky suspicion that David Moyes back at Everton could be a success.
Like, what's a success? Oh, we'll finish top 8 for the rest of our lives. I mean... Is that a success if that's what, if for all the money that they've spent, never having any ambition to, like, do what Leicester are doing, to, like, cause a bit of trouble, to, like, be exciting?
That's what David Moyes did in his previous tenure with Everton. Now, granted, he got a little bit lucky with Liverpool actually winning the Champions League on that occasion, but cracking the top 4 was their objective, and he managed to do it on one season. And they came close. They were at least they were lingering around there, whereas this Everton side just has a tendency to kind of tank and finish 12th until kind of they go into the home stretch of the season, because they've spent so much money that they actually have a decent second string squad once injuries start mounting up in the second half of the season, and they tend to finish in the top 8 or whatever. I think they 100% have a potential to do what Leicester are doing when you look at what they've got in their squad. They don't have the manager to do it.
No.
And they don't have the belief in that manager to be able to execute to the best of their potential. David Moyes might be that guy.
He's not.
He might be that guy.
He's not.
He just might.
He's not. There's no chance he's that manager.
He really could be, though.
Where's your evidence for that? Like, that's the question.
The evidence, granted, is from his previous stints at Everton. Everything since then has been a disaster. You do kind of feel sorry for him after.
Was he okay at West Ham? Was he okay at West Ham?
Okay, maybe okay at a stretch. This is me being kind of a lover of poetic narratives here. This is not me basing this on recent footballing achievements. I think Sunderland and Manchester United could be slightly worrying developments. His time in Spain, a slightly worrying development. And these are all recent things. These are all more recent occurrences than his relative success at Everton. So I'll accept that the evidence that you mentioned there isn't on my side, and this is all based on poetry. But I'd like to see it happen. I'd like to see him go back. And I think going in the middle of a season is just a nice way for it to happen, because they could turn around to him and say, we'll give you an 18-month contract. We'll see you until the end of the 2020-21 season.
We'll see what Kenny thinks about this and all the other ones as well, because Chris Wilder's being linked with the West Ham gig. And if I was Chris Wilder, I wouldn't be taking that gig either.
No.
But anyway, so the back of the Star is firing the Ole. Except when you see Ole like that, it's Ole, firing the Ole. But anyway, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted to substitute every one of his outfield players before Manchester United escaped Bramall Lane with a dramatic 3-3 draw. They've got Pluck Fodda, a picture of the Barcelona mascot, and Brendan Maher and Liam Ryan celebrating after they won yesterday. And Keane on an under-21 post. This is a story from Paul Lennon about how Robbie Keane would like to take over as the Ireland under-21 manager after Stephen Kenny goes. I presume Robbie's finished all his badges, is he? He's got his pro licence and all that stuff done, so there's no issues around that.
Not sure what his status is on that. It's an interesting one. It's hard to know where Robbie Keane is at in his managerial career so far. What did he bring? What has he brought to the Mick McCarthy setup so far? We don't hear much about what Keane is doing or how effective he has been. And
a very interesting point that Paul Lennon brings up. Robbie Keane is interested in switching from his role with the senior team to under-21 Supremo, using his contract with the FAI as part of his negotiating platform. You would assume Robbie Keane's contract is the same as the manager of the senior team, that it would finish at the end of the European qualifier. You'd be wrong, Owen, if you made that assumption, because his contract actually runs to 2021. Yeah,
that's I have seen that reported elsewhere over the last few weeks as well.
Why was that?
A key point.
Why did he get a contract different from the senior international manager? Was part of the senior international team?
Unless the FAI have actually gone 3 steps ahead, and they were like, Robbie Keane can be the glue that holds us all together, and he will succeed Stephen Kenny after he succeeds Mick McCarthy, and then we've basically got 3 managers in a row, signed, sealed and delivered, and we can go worry about other business in our day-to-day lives rather than worrying about who's going to manage the Republic of Ireland senior team. I think it is odd that they don't give an entire ticket the same length of contract.
Himself and Duffer are apparently on the 2019-2020 pro licence course, so they'll be finished around about the same time. Tim McGuinness on that course as well. So that'll be an interesting studious classroom. Yeah. Robbie down the back messing, Jim up the front, sleeves rolled up.
Yeah.
Or actually, would it be the other way around? Because, you know, Robbie surprising us all, not making gags and being the joker, but like being the student.
Yeah, that kind of razor-sharp sense of humour would be wasted as a top of the class student, I reckon. Like his career at Middlesbrough needs to be considered in all of this. It's hard to see from the story
if there's any, at the end of the year.
Yeah, but if there's any FAI interest in this, they haven't really made any sounds as to what they want to do with the Stephen Kenny post after he leaves.
Who in the FAI are making that decision right now?
Yeah, but that's also the other issue, and maybe Robbie Keane kind of provides an easy enough fix to that. Like Keith Andrews, you'd imagine, would also be in the mix after he was involved with Stephen Kenny in this campaign.
Unless Keith goes with Kenny to the senior team, which also makes a bit of sense.
Yeah, like I think we also need to, that would make sense. If that doesn't happen though, I think we need to realise that this European campaign with the under-21s is going till 2021. This has been an excellent campaign so far. Stephen Kenny will be leaving before that campaign is over. Yeah. To take him and Keith both out of the situation there, or to remove the entire backroom staff. I know that probably won't be the case. It'll probably just be the senior figures, and then to just put Robbie Keane in there, it might disrupt the rhythm a little bit. I don't know, but like obviously you have to respect people's ambitions in their own career, and if Keith Andrews feels like going in with Stephen Kenny if he has the opportunity to do so, I know that's a very different thing.
Yeah.
It's good for his career, then you have to just say fair play to him and go for it. But you'd like to think that there would be a little bit of consistency in this 21s campaign. We never qualified for an under-21s Euro campaign.
No.
This is a great opportunity.
No, and it would be, I mean, look, it would be a great thing for Robbie Keane to be able to go and get some tournament experience, but also
that's true, I guess.
not having had the involvement in the campaign up to that point seemed a bit like, what's going on here?
Is the Robbie Keane factor more of a thing to an underage team?
No.
The
sure.
wide-eyed, this is Robbie Keane, oh my God.
Is it? Well,
Maybe
sure,
they're all don't even remember Robbie Keane.
I mean, they're all born like way after. Well, no, they weren't. Robbie Keane's heyday was a good decade long, so look, maybe, who knows?
The Irish Daily Mail this morning is Joe's in demand. This is Joe Schmidt. He's been linked with an All Blacks backroom role. So the next All Blacks coaching ticket, says Rory Keane, could have a distinctly Irish feel to it, with Joe Schmidt, John Plumtree, I should say, and Greg Feek all potentially in the mix. So who's going to be the head coach? It's still up for decision at the moment. Ian Foster and Scott Robertson are the front runners to become Steve Hansen's successor. So obviously Joe Schmidt has said he's going to take some time away from rugby until at least June 2020. But if there's somebody of Joe Schmidt's skill set that's available as a backroom role,
I think specifically be number 2.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Plumtree would do the forwards. Plumtree did the forwards for Schmidt for a year with Ireland. Feek obviously has just left, and Foster is going to get this gig.
You'd imagine so, yeah.
Take that for 4 years, and then they'll have their succession plan worked out, which is pretty much exactly what happened with Steve Hansen, who coached Wales in a World Cup, left after a quarter-final defeat, was due to take a gig in Super Rugby with Graham Henry as part of his backroom team, alongside Joe Schmidt, funnily enough, and then New Zealand crapped out of the World Cup, and Henry got the main gig, took Steve Hansen with him, and then obviously Hansen stood there for 8 years biding his time until he got it, and stayed on.
If the All Blacks make this happen, it's just a match made in heaven, really, if they manage to have Schmidt in as their assistant coach, because
they've no tests in between now and then.
Between now and
July.
June, July, yeah.
So like it works perfectly, and the reason they're staying in Ireland is for school, is what Schmidt's been saying in interviews recently. So look, we actually have Joe Schmidt in the studio a little bit later on today. We'll put this to him.
Yeah, I can't see on the All Black side of things. I just can't see this being anything but a bad idea. It's just it's perfect. It's the Schmidt and Foster relationship. Like, have they worked together before? It's Ian Foster as head coach would be an interesting thing. I think that he kind of fulfilled the role of assistant coach quite well. The sort of you don't quite know what exactly his impact has been. You'd imagine it's been quite significant, but he's kind of been that even more brash than Steve Hansen when he's been out there, which is saying something. And perhaps he'll be even better as a head coach when he is kind of the leader in that coaching ticket. But Schmidt as an assistant just kind of has a weird feel to it as well.
Yeah, but like Hansen did the same thing.
Yeah,
that's if you want the All Black gig, there's a clear pathway that the New Zealand Rugby Union have laid down, and one of those is come and work in Super Rugby for us. That would seem like not the best use of Joe Schmidt's experiences. So the front cover of the Irish Times this morning is a great picture of a man called Liam Brady. Liam Brady celebrates winning the senior men's event at the National Cross Country Championships at Abbottstown yesterday. Solskjaer sees some good and very poor display, which we've been talking about already, and Anglo-Irish back-to-back clashes will be pivotal, says Jerry Thornley over his summation of the weekend, which mostly is focused on the Munster Saracens game. Munster Racing, looking forward to Saracens.
Back page of the London Times is Arsenal setting their sights on Mikel Arteta. Emery on the brink amid fan rebellion, and Everton are weighing up how to replace struggling Silva. So a couple of varying reports across the newspapers this morning. The Sun, which I haven't got to yet, is reporting that Pochettino's in the mix for the Arsenal job, which seems to be kind of plucked out of the sky for a back page. There isn't a huge amount.
You've got to go for it for Arsenal now, and if Emery is like on the thin ice that he's on, then you've got to just go before the Man United gig gets available, before one of the other world football jobs becomes available. If you're Everton, you should be going to Mauricio Pochettino and going, we'll give you the money that Jose Mourinho is getting that you should have got. And look, we're starting to spend some cash here, and our team's not that bad. But if you're here, you can own this city. You can go toe-to-toe with Jurgen Klopp.
No, I don't think Mauricio Pochettino is going to go for the Everton job.
Why not? It's money.
He's beyond the Everton gig at this point. He's just about... Arsenal are just about in the frame to get Mauricio Pochettino. And even then, I'm looking at the reports, I'm like, you're not going to get this guy. Like, he's waiting for a big fish at this point. He
hasn't had a big fish yet. He turned Spurs into a big fish, you know?
He's ready to take that Bayern Munich job at this point. He's ready to take that potentially that Real Madrid job now. And I know he'll never get the Barcelona job because of his Espanyol links, but Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, that sort of calibre of club. Manchester United is calibre of club. Like, Manchester United's recent failings, of course it impacts where they stand in world football, but they have so much in the bank for them to still attract somebody of Mauricio Pochettino's calibre. I've got just a terrible, and I've been saying this since the summer, since before David Luiz and Danny Ceballos kind of gave me stars in my eyes, that Arsenal are in very big danger, actually falling to the point where they can't actually attract a manager like Mauricio Pochettino and falling through the 6th place trapdoor at this point. Like, they need somebody of Pochettino's calibre to keep the superstars that they have in their squad, albeit superstars who are underperforming massively at the moment, but to still keep them in the club and get them playing a lot better. And it does actually, in fairness, play into your point that they need to act right now.
Yeah.
There's not thin ice. The ice is gone at this point. Emery is just floating in ice-cold water right now. It's over. It's all done. There's no way that this thing can be salvaged. And they need to just act, and they need to get it done now. They need to look across North London and look at what Daniel Levy's done and said, right, pull the plug immediately and install somebody else immediately. Things need to happen very, very quickly here for us to move forward. And maybe it is going to be Arteta. That is what the back page here is going, but it seems to be Arteta or Pochettino, and then Massimiliano Allegri is the other real contender, it seems, as a potential replacement for Unai Emery.
Yeah.
Unai Emery is not a dead man walking. He's dead. He's not walking. He's lying on the floor.
Is Allegri the right person either?
He'd probably be better than Unai Emery. Who knows?
But that again, you have to stop thinking.
You're comparing. There's a clear, defined number one on the list here, and it is Mauricio Pochettino. I really struggle to make a case for Arteta or Allegri.
Arteta's supposed to be some kind of genius that, like, City have earmarked to be the next Guardiola, and Arsenal had him basically offered the gig the last time, and it all fell apart without him knowing about it. So I don't know. If I was him, I'd be reluctant to go back. The Mirror this morning: Ole Fury was turned up to 11. This is he wants to sub everybody off. Silva, Emery, and Pellegrini on the brink. West Ham obviously available. Chris Hughton apparently was mentioned in dispatches for that one. And Donnacha O'Brien is retiring, aged 21. Two-time champion jockey Donnacha O'Brien has announced his retirement from the saddle at the age of 21. O'Brien, son of Aidan, is set to concentrate on a new career as a trainer. So obviously they've been building up a small group of horses, he says, at Longfield Stud, and he will hopefully grow from there. So wish him all the best of luck. Fairly phenomenal career. And we had him in studio last year on Friday Night Racing, and he was just talking about the difficulties of making the weight. So it was fairly clear that this was probably going to be his last few races over the last few days in the saddle. Just the difficulty was too much. You start to grow, you like to eat.
Yeah, we had Joseph on after the Melbourne Cup a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that he's 6'1". That's big for a jockey. The fact that he's even made it as far is
incredible.
Quite an achievement, and actually achieving what he has done in the saddle. Back page of the Sun, as I mentioned, is this story about Pochettino. Poch, you're back. Gunner's eye on Maurizio as end is nigh for Unai. There's been a couple of things that have come through over the last couple of days on different websites and papers. Like the Time story seems to have a bit of thrust with the Athletic story about Sir Chips Keswick perhaps walking away from Arsenal has a bit of thrust with it. It's hard to see where the meat is in the Sun story about Mauricio Pochettino. Shock contender for Arsenal. Gunners Chiefs not convinced they can talk to the former Tottenham boss. The thinking at the Emirates is that they still want to give Unai Emery until the end of the season. A decision will then be made in his long-term future, but senior Gunners figures have been shocked by the speed of the team's recent decline. This is something that you and I both know. Of course you're going to be shocked by this. So Arsenal's directors would have no problems appointing him despite his Tottenham link. Is that new? Of course they would have no problem appointing him because he's a better manager than Arsenal have had since peak Arsene Wenger. So I don't know. I'm not buying any concrete link at the moment with Mauricio Pochettino. Of course there is going to be speculation around him because he's a top-class Premier League manager who's available, and Arsenal need a manager.
For nothing.
For nothing.
You're paying off Unai Emery, and that's the money that you would have had to spend to get somebody like Pochettino. So that's probably good enough for them. Did the back cover come off that? It was an ad, I guess. So the Guardian this morning, I think this is, and they are Abramovich as involved as ever, says Chelsea chairman. So Roman Abramovich is not going anywhere. Roman Abramovich has rejected bidders who think they can buy Chelsea at a bargain price and remains just as involved in the club as he ever has been, Chairman Bruce Buck says. So Buck has done an interview here, and there's another way you can go back and find out how Roman Abramovich made his money. It's pretty interesting backstory about when he did get rich. Essentially came from nothing, and Abramovich still has not got a UK visa. The British government delayed renewing his visa since 2018, so he hasn't been at a home match since then, and it was part of the retaliation against Putin. Remember the Novichok poisoning?
Yeah, that's why. He hasn't been a citizen since then, basically.
This is all part of the British government's response to Vladimir Putin. There's a new drama coming out about that actually in the next couple of months, which is going to be really good. And Book says, so far as I know, absolutely not. To the contrary, I've never heard a word from Mr. Abramovich. Let's get this ready for a sale. Now, in fairness, if you're Bruce Book and you were putting the club up for sale and Abramovich had told him that and you were doing an interview with The Guardian, the last thing you would say is, yeah, we're looking for a sale. I mean, come on. You don't actually need to say that. You can send out that signal to the relevant people pretty easily. You can actually ring them up and say, here, you've got about 600 billion. Would you like a football club? I see some of your cousins have football clubs. Would you like one? That's how that would work.
Back page of the Herald this morning is Solskjaer. We never gave up. He's backed United after thriller ends in draw. And they're also doing a 5-part series, the Herald, of the best dubs of the millennium. So it's 50 down to 40 today. We've got the likes of Cormac Costello, Eamon Fendel, Mossy Quinn, Senan Connell in the mix today.
Who's 40th? Give us the 52.
At 50, we've got Eamon Fennell. At 49, we've got Darren Daly. 48 is Collie Moran. At 47 is Johnny McGee. Paul Casey's at 46. Senan Connell is 45. Paul Curran is 44. David Henry is number 43. Mossy Quinn is 42. And then Cormac Costello is 41. So he's the first of the real current bunch of Dublin players. I know Darren Daly's listed there, but somebody who's been involved more than that is Cormac Costello. So the top 10 is just going to be 10 players from the current team.
Yeah, Cluxon's going to be number 1, right?
Does Kieran Wheeling make the top 10?
Conley? Ahead of Cluxon? No, Cluxon has to be number 1, doesn't he?
I would say so. I would say, like, this is...
number 2. Of this millennium, is it?
Of this millennium? Yeah, like, I don't know. If you put Jack McCaffrey and Brian Fenton as your top 2, I'd be like, fair enough. Because for me, they've been 2 of the best dubs to watch. Diarmuid Connolly would be in that bracket as well. But then when you get into why Dublin are 5-in-a-row champions, it's because of Stephen Cluxon and Kieran Kilkenny. And then the rest are, I don't want to say window dressing in comparison.
You've got Kilkenny ahead of Fenton.
I would say in the way, the importance to Dublin, the heartbeat of Dublin, it would go Cluxton, Kilkenny, then Fenton, then McCaffrey.
I'd have Fenton.
And then Brogan probably. Connolly would probably be down the list in terms of the importance to Dublin. He's basically missed 2 seasons and they still won All Irelands with him. But when it comes to the best Dublin footballers, Connolly could easily be number 1.
Yeah.
So it depends on the kind of way they've decided to do it.
Fenton's arrival coinciding with the 5-in-a-row, obviously not just cause and effect, but like it's like, well, hang on a second, come on. Didn't miss a game of that. Right, so I have the Telegraph for you here, and it's rescued by the kids. Solskjaer relief as United's youth grabbed 3 goals in 7 minutes. So look, I mean, I think that in training this week you can look around and you go, okay, I'm going to give these guys a chance now. I'm going to make them the core of this for the next few weeks and just ride that energy, you know?
I suppose you could do. Like, to go back to Kerry's comments, he wasn't exactly impressed with Brandon Williams yesterday. He didn't exactly put in a performance that blew him away. But it's amazing what a goal can do for a 19-year-old's confidence, I guess. And like starting him at left back now for the foreseeable future probably wouldn't be the worst decision in the world. I just don't see that this is like a crest of a wave that Manchester United have suddenly stumbled upon. They've drawn with Sheffield United. They haven't beaten Manchester City or Liverpool here.
I know.
They got out of jail with like this bizarre upsurge.
Sheffield United pretty good
in the middle of a game. They're excellent. They're a brilliant team. They beat Arsenal. Not saying much, but they have beaten some of last season's top 6 already this season. They deserved to win yesterday. Like there's just too much that you could be concerned about in that opening 70-minute performance.
We haven't even talked about
Manchester United even kind of considered a possibility that this is the start of an upturn in fortunes.
Things we haven't talked about yet. Chelsea being beaten by Man City. The return of Jose Mourinho to the Premier League. We can talk about all this with Kenny Cunningham in 5 minutes' time, but we would like your views on them. Hashtag OTB AM. You're listening to us on OTB Sports Radio, more than likely if you're listening to us through the Go Loud app, or perhaps you're on the Off the Ball website and you're just listening to us as a radio station there, or alternatively you're watching us this morning on youtube.com/offtheball.
The back page of the Irish Independent is Cock-a-Hoop Boris, the Kings of Munster. got the story of the cock coming our way at around 8:30 this morning. It's probably, we don't have enough time at the moment, but been researching all morning to find out the backstory of Paddy. Paddy is the cock. Magical Maher takes centre stage as underdogs to throne Ole Gunnar. And also on the back page, you've got United must be brave and wave goodbye to Solskjaer. That's Eamon Sweeney. If it took until I died, I was going to get it. That is Liam Brady winning the cross country yesterday. And Leinster must find finishing touches, says Rory O'Connor.
I've got 2 cups this morning. One is for Lemsip.
I was thinking that the people watching and listening, people listening today might notice a few octaves lower.
Yeah, like
Is there a blame? Was it a heavy weekend or was
no,
winter is here?
I was the opposite of a heavy weekend. Yeah.
What are you suffering from? Is it man flu, full blown man flu?
No, not yet. Just a heavy head cold, which is worse because it's like you feel as bad as if you've got man flu, but no one has any sympathy for a cold.
No, absolutely not. There should be no sympathy for man flu either.
Well, they should. You should have like 3 or 4 days off work.
No, just be contagious, wander around with everybody else. That's how it's supposed to
work. That's what I like. Well, look, everybody refuses to open the windows in our office or to at least turn on the air conditioning. They're like, "That's too cold. I'll put on a jumper." That's why it's the perfect temperature for all of the germs to coalesce, meet, breed, multiply, and smear everywhere.
You won't even let a bit of heat in the office. It sounds like a bit of a tyrannical regime you're running
there.
there.
Blast the cool air to kill all the germs.
Who cares about germs when you can be warm and snug, living in your own invisible filth all around you? It's amazing. It's a great feeling in the middle of the winter.
Yeah, and then you die very quickly.
It's worth it. You can put it on the tombstone.
Chiseling away at your immune system.
He died on whatever date of 2019.
A worthy cause, because we wouldn't open the window at work.
Irish Examiner this morning is the Brendan Voyage. Brendan Maher celebrating yesterday. Boris Lee's win 4-1, somebody was saying in the office this morning. Well, actually, it was Phil saying it, that Brendan Maher and Co. had said it on TV yesterday. Yeah. That is insane. Like, you would have thought...
I'd also just like to point out that he was in the studio during the week, talking about being a club hurler. Like, this is definitely one of those bits where the more of the chatting you do about stuff, the better it is for everybody. Certainly, he's got a great story. You should listen back to that podcast if you missed it.
Tapping over a 20-yard freeze as well yesterday. Love to see that from a centre-back. There's so much to love about the Boris Lee team, actually. We'll get into it later on.
He's in great shape.
Yes.
We walked into the office like, holy man, you are in great shape. There's no rest for the wicked. I guess at this stage now, when he's come back from the cruise ship, to have the last year that he's had, and even a little longer since he's back from the cruise ship, he's been sensational. Because you're right, you're at that stage of your career where no one would in any way give you any grief if you decided, right, look, I've done everything, been the captain, won stuff in the past, but to knuckle down and get back to what you did, that was fairly sensational. It
must just be something in his mindset that when it gets taken away from him, he must have missed it so much, as you can imagine, he probably did. And saying to himself during that period out, this is never going to happen to me again, or at least if it does happen to me again, I'm going to make sure I get the very, very best out of my career. And it's turned into a special 2019 for him, which is great. You can't but be happy for the man. The Irish News is what we're going to bring you next. We're learning all the time, says Solskjaer. They're going with the story from Bramall Lane yesterday. Even though the big part of this game is a negative and we were disappointed with it, the overriding feeling is a positive because of the character. That is a quote from Solskjaer yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can see why you would try and accentuate the positive. I just wanted to mention Ronnie McNamee did an interview with Keane over the weekend, which is worth digging out. The Tyrone footballer talking about his own battle with depression and how he came through that. And then he's obviously the all-star fullback this year, and talks in fairly interesting detail about the value of the club to him and just how difficult it is for the club to survive when they have, they're not a huge club, so 3 or 4 players make the county panel and suddenly they're not playing games, and the whole rest of the club ends up being punished a little bit for that. So apart from the honesty about the mental health story, there's also great stuff in it as well, so you should just dig that out. Keane, you can get it on his Twitter